In one quiet lane of Pune lived a mother who believed that love, pure, honest love, would always come back full circle. Her name? Savitri Mehra. A widow since her 30s, she raised her only son Arjun with her own hands, scrubbing floors in other people's homes, skipping meals when money ran low, and pawning her wedding bangles just so he could wear a proper sherwani for graduation. In our country, we say, Maya ka ashirvad sabse bada dan hai. A mother's blessing is the greatest gift. But what happens when that very blessing is taken for granted, even discarded? One Tuesday, Savitri fainted in her kitchen. Probably low sugar, she thought. That same evening, Arjun and his wife Neha arrived, full of concern. But behind their soft words and warm soup, something was brewing. A few days later, she was dropped off at a nursing home. No warning, no explanation, not even a packed bag. "Just for a few days, Ma," he said, with a hug that felt like goodbye. But they didn't know one thing. Savitri Mehra may be old, but she is not finished. This is not just a story of betrayal. This is the story of how one mother turned silence into strength, and how the quietest woman in the room gave her son a lesson he'll never forget. So sit back, pour yourself a cup of chai, because once you hear what she did next, you'll never call your mother a burden again. The room had no soul, no framed photos, no calendar, no idols, just one cold bed, and a window that didn't open fully. Savitri Mehra sat on the edge of that unfamiliar cot, her sari creased, her heart heavier than ever. She wasn't crying, because crying would mean she had accepted it. On the table lay the admission form. Her name, Arjun's signature. Medical consent, long-term residential care. They had signed her away, just like that. "You'll be safe here, Ma," they said. Safe from what? From her own house? From her own life? The staff nodded with forced kindness. They called her a little forgetful, spoke to her slowly, as if her age meant her brain had melted. But what they didn't know was, Savitri remembered everything. Every electricity bill Arjun quietly shifted to his name. Every neighbor she hadn't seen since Neha started whispering she wasn't herself. Every phone call that suddenly stopped. She kept quiet for 3 days. She listened, watched, observed. On the 4th day, she asked for a notebook. "I like to write poems," she told the nurse with a smile. But those pages held no poetry, only facts, names, transactions, dates, property details, account numbers. And at the bottom of the page, "Call Reena Sharma." She had nothing to prove, only something to reclaim. The world thought she was finished, but Savitri Mehra wasn't waiting for rescue. She was planning a return. 3 weeks in the care home felt longer than 3 decades of hardship, but Savitri Mehra didn't break. She didn't cry out or plead. Instead, every night she wrote. In her spiral notebook, she noted account numbers, property papers, and the number of Reena Sharma, the trusted lawyer who once helped her with her husband's will. One Friday morning, Savitri requested a phone call from the reception. Her voice was calm but firm. "Reena ji, it's Savitri Mehra. My son has committed fraud. I am alive, alert, and not going quietly." By lunch the next day, Reena arrived. Cotton kurta, heavy handbag, and a fire in her eyes. "You're not staying here even one more day," she said, gripping Savitri's hand. Together, they sat and went through everything. The power of attorney? Forged. The doctor's evaluation? Declared Savitri mentally sound. The joint account? Still active in her name. Arjun had assumed silence meant surrender. Within days, Reena filed an urgent court petition revoking the forged papers and requested to freeze the assets Arjun had been using, including the house he now claimed as his. On the following Wednesday, Savitri walked out of the facility. No farewell, no apology. Just her, Reena, and a bag of clothes. But her back stood straighter than ever before. She didn't go back home, not yet. Instead, she checked into a nearby service apartment, because a bigger storm was coming. That Tuesday at 7 a.m., a process server knocked on Arjun's door, handed over the legal notice. Neha screamed. Arjun went pale, and somewhere across the neighborhood, Savitri sipped her masala tea and smiled quietly. The war wasn't over, but justice had arrived on time. After everything she had been through, Savitri Mehra did not want the old house back. No, she wanted something better, a new beginning with a sharper view. So, with the proceeds from the house sale and a little help from Reena Sharma, she bought the house right next door. A simple one-story home with a rosebush out front and a veranda that faced her old porch, Arjun's porch. She paid in full. No EMI, no mortgage, just quiet satisfaction. The first morning she moved in, Savitri wore her best cotton sari and sat on the front steps with a cup of chai. She wasn't waiting for anyone. She just wanted to breathe. And then, Arjun stepped outside. Wrinkled t-shirt, messy hair, trash bag in one hand, phone in the other. He froze. She smiled. He turned and went right back inside. Savitri didn't move. This was her view now. Over the next few days, Neha stopped making eye contact. She parked the car farther from the gate. The curtains stayed drawn. Savitri? She planted roses along the fence. Red ones, bold ones. Petty, Reena said. Peaceful, Savitri replied. She began baking again, offered sweets to the neighbors, made banana halwa for the newlywed couple who bought her old house. Every evening, she sat quietly on her porch and watched. Arjun tried not to see her, but he did. And soon, the silence started speaking louder than any argument ever could. One day, as the sun dipped low behind the temple tower, a young voice called out at the gate, "Grandma, can I sit with you?" It was Rohan, her grandson, Arjun's son. She opened the screen door, no questions, just 2 glasses of chai, and one healing conversation. Next, legacy reclaimed, one grandchild at a time. From that day onwards, Rohan started visiting often. Sometimes with his school bag hanging low, sometimes with nothing but a tired look in his eyes. "They said you were confused, Grandma," he whispered one evening, hands curled around a glass of warm milk. "But you don't look confused to me." Savitri smiled softly. "I never was, Beta." Rohan began helping in the garden. He pulled weeds, planted marigolds, and even asked if they could grow tomatoes next season. At dinner, he asked about his grandfather, about their old house, about recipes that Neha never learnt to make. "Dad doesn't talk about these things," he said one night. "It's like he's forgotten we ever had a history." Savitri didn't speak badly of Arjun. She didn't have to. The silence in their old home was already speaking volumes. And Rohan, this 14-year-old boy who had once been taught to believe his grandmother was a burden, was now finding warmth in her presence. She never said it aloud, but in her heart she knew. Maybe the future didn't lie in fixing broken people, but in guiding the ones still growing. One morning, Rohan walked in with excitement. "Grandma, can we make sweet potato halwa? I want to take some for our school's culture fair." She blinked, then smiled. "Of course, and you'll tell them, this is your daddy's recipe, huh?" Rohan grinned. "Best in the whole mohalla." That night, while he was asleep in the guest room, Savitri sat by the window. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was rebuilding. And this time, she wasn't doing it alone. Next, the will that spoke louder than apologies. A few weeks later, an envelope arrived. Inside was a copy of Savitri Mehra's new will, neatly drafted, signed, notarized by Reena Sharma herself. In it, Arjun received nothing, not a rupee. The house Savitri now lived in, willed entirely to Rohan, to be his once he turned 21. Until then, a trust fund would cover his education, his basic needs, and anything that helped him grow into a man who valued truth. The rest of her savings, gold, insurance, and house sale profits, all donated to a new initiative she started, the Savitri Seva Grant, a fund for elder women thrown away by their own children. She didn't tell Arjun, but he found out 2 months later when he asked Reena for just a copy of the estate plan for reference. Reena smiled. "You're not in it." That night, Arjun called. "Ma, is this real?" "Yes," she said. "You're cutting me out completely?" "No," she replied calmly. "You did that yourself the day you signed me away like old luggage." He was silent. She continued, You didn't just fail me. You erased me. I said sorry. And I forgave you, she said. But forgiveness does not mean inheritance. She hung up. That was the last time they spoke. A few weeks later, a faded for sale sign went up outside Arjun's house. No one asked, no one cared. When he left, Savitri didn't wave. She didn't watch from the window. She sat on the porch with Rohan, sipping jasmine tea, while bees danced in the marigolds and the kitchen smelled of cinnamon toast. Do you think he'll ever come back? Rohan asked. Savitri smiled gently. Maybe. But if he does, he'll find a fence that wasn't there before. Because peace, once reclaimed, is never given back.